Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Woo! Of course, as you can see in the background, we have our chicken structure at a point which is quite good enough. We've made good progress in constructing our chicken house. So this is going to be the third chicken house that we are constructing on this farm. So we have chicken house number 1 right there. You can see one of my colleagues has just been picking eggs from the house, as you can see. Yeah, so that's from chicken house number 1 right there. Chicken house number 2 right there. But each chicken house has its own sick bay, as you can see right there. Then there is a water tank which supplies both chicken houses, and this chicken house number 2 with its sick bay right there, that we modified to make it better than this because of a few things we had learned. Again, it's also supplied by these water tanks. And this over here that you're seeing is chicken house number 3. It's quite a cloudy day, as you can see, a really cloudy morning. But as you can see, this is chicken house number 3, and you can see the material around. It's quite morning time. You can see this is our tricycle that we use to help us carry the egg. We have some material around. I think you can see some sand. You can see some of the guys over there in their overalls. Very important. So let me just show you guys around. Like I've always shared with you guys, the goal with everything that is done is to ensure that we are improving. I mean, nothing should be the same. Despite the fact that all the houses measure 20 meters by 8 meters, there is a lot of significant differences in each house, because with each house, we learn particular things that we actually think we can improve on the very next houses. And we've learned some of those things. I mean, with the very first house, there's a few things we learned with the flooring, with the structure, with the sick bay that we implemented on the second house to make it better. But even with that, we also noticed that there's a few things that we can certainly make better about it. And so we've decided to implement on this house, which is the third house. So if you can see it, structurally it looks exactly the same. Meanwhile, you might be wondering why the guys are not working. Today it's a Sunday, so you can see all the equipment, the material around here, but there's no people working. It's because it's a Sunday, and yeah, they have decided to have some time for rest. So as you can see, for this particular house, we decided to use poles, like actual electric poles, treated electric poles. Now some of them are used, like, you know, they are used, but they are still stronger than just, you know, our normal poles right here, as you can see. So these are really big, like really, really big. Putting them up, just making it stand, required quite an amount of work, but these are really big. So the main corners, literally all the 4 corners, even this of the house, we use these. These are significantly bigger than what we used, for example, for the first house. Look at the top. Can you see? This is towards the top. You can see how big the pole is from the ground. And we'll move over to the very first house, and you can see how small the poles were. That is it towards the top. Can you see it? Yeah, much, much smaller. I mean, this is what we are looking at in the corner here. Much, much, much smaller. I mean, it's even less than half of the size of the other one. Now, for this house, we certainly did make them a bit better. We've made them a bit bigger, as you can see. It's quite hard to see. Yeah, quite hard to see. But for this house, we did make them a bit bigger, but certainly not as big as this. So that's already one improvement that we made in the house. We had to make sure that we use bigger poles. So generally, this is a farmer structure. As you can see in the ground, we have placed it in the ground using concrete. So we dig holes and then we place concrete. Also, the poles, like I've told you, are treated. A lot of the poles are treated. And now you notice that at every point we have 2 poles. This is another major change we made. Of course, all the other structures also have 2 poles, yeah? And you might be wondering why we have 2 poles. It's because the second pole works as the support for the top floor. You see, the thing that I noticed with the very first chicken house that I built, which was at my dad's place, is that for the top floor, what we did is that we supported the poles simply using nails. You get a pole and hit it along this one, the ones which are running, the ones which are forming the floor for the top floor, make it run and then hit it inside this pole with a nail. Now, that simply meant that the entire weight of the top floor was simply resting on nails. That's really crazy for you to believe that, you know, it will last. So it was inevitable that at first it appeared weak and it seemed like it was going to break, the very first house that I built. So we actually had to repair it and use a better form of structural support. So now this is certainly a better form of support. But the way we have modified it from the other structures, which is what we have been doing, is that then we were placing these posts on the inside. So if you're looking at the house right now, this is, I mean, the length of the house, and this is the width of the house. So at first what we were doing is that we were placing these poles on the side right here, and it's along these sides right here that would have long poles, I mean spanning the entire length of the house. 2 long poles, because we only have 2 middle points. Only these pillars are in the middle. I don't know if you'd call these pillars, maybe they are wooden pillars. This and right here, and then the others are on the extreme, that and that. So we would have just 2 poles running in the middle, and until the entire weight of the top floor was supported on these 2 poles that are running. That now, of course, it was very important that we had these supports to support them. But we actually thought that if we make these poles run in this other direction, then we have a lot more poles supporting the weight, because then we have how many middle poles? I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 poles in this length to support the weight of the top floor instead of just 2. So that certainly makes the top floor much stronger, and it lessens the weight on these poles. Yeah, it certainly lessens the weight on the poles. So yes, like I've always told you guys, the goal is simply to ensure that we get better. I mean, we get better with each and every passing day. And yeah, we thought about that, and we thought implementing it that way would certainly be way better. And we think it's going to help improve the house. Now, the birds that are supposed to be moving into this house should be turning 14 weeks soon. So what that means is that by the time they're 16 weeks, we want them to be here. So that means we have about 2 weeks to prepare the entire house. But 2 weeks is more than enough. I feel like the biggest percentage of the work, you know, the hardest work has actually been done. That is the hardest work. So the main thing that we're going to be left with is the roofing. The guys are going to get done with the roofing tomorrow. I mean, placing the poles that go at the top, and then the next day they'll put the iron sheets, and we'll be done with the roofing. And then after that, it will be working on the sides and placing the floor, you know, the top floor. Then we have to pour concrete at the bottom. Pouring concrete is probably 2 days work. The roof, maybe 2 more days, that's 4 days. Everything else really just takes maximum 2 days. So in about a week, ideally, we should be done with the work on the farm right here in about a week maximum. And then we'll prepare to have the bird coming in. So we are trying to make sure that we improve. I mean, with every passing day, with every passing thing that we do on the farm, we improve. We tried to space the houses as well as possible. This is house number 1, and this is house number 2. So you can see that, you know, we have quite some gap in between. In actual size, it's about 14 meters. Now 15 meters is ideal, but the reason I did it 14 meters is because I don't have the space on the other side to keep pushing the house, because I also needed to make sure that there is space on the other side to ensure that the house is some distance from, you know, from the rest of the activities. You know, we'll move over here. Yeah, so I needed to make sure that this house is some distance from where the guys are sleeping and everything. So I needed to make sure that I give it some distance, but not too far away. So the further it would move to this side, closer to this side, then the worse the problem would be. So I had to make sure that, you know, 14 meters, but that's ideal. I mean, that's okay considering that the place is well aerated. You know, anything between 10 and 15 meters is okay. And for me, I gave it 14 meters. So I believe that the spacing is very fine. It's certainly going to be a much firmer structure and better structure than our house number 1 and our house number 2. So guys, tell me if you love it in the comment section. I mean, are you actually enjoying? Are you actually learning? Do you find this helpful? I try to be as helpful as possible and teach you guys and bring things that can be impactful. I can see a lot of people currently building structures of this type, and it's not like I'm the one who initiated them, but they were not quite popular. Yeah, people had their connotations about them, but they were not quite popular. But I see it happening more commonly, and yeah, certainly it saves a lot of space, it saves money, and it's very effective. I hope, you know, people keep picking it up. Tell me what you think about it. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell. That way you never miss out on our upload. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye bye.